Here we are. Welcome to Chicago. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure. So we have a group of eager writers, aspiring writers, and I want to talk first about some television stuff because you both have a lot of experience in the television industry. And I'll start with you, Kam. So we like to focus a lot here on project selection as part of the process of choosing what you write instead of just jumping into everything you think of. I know Mark in the last panel talked a lot about volume and creating a lot of ideas and creating a lot of material. So what's your process for deciding when it's time, like when something's ready to be written and when it's good enough to invest your time into going to pilot with, for instance?
Okay. I only work on things that I am passionate about. So I encourage you to only work on things that you're passionate about. It's the things that I can't get out of my head because there's a lot of things that come in. I get brought projects. I say no to a lot of projects, not because they're not great, but because I know that I do primarily pilots. I have sold and developed 8 pilots, and I continue to do that. That has been essentially my path in my career. And I get brought a lot of ideas, and again, it's not because they're not really great ideas, but I know I'm going to have to invest a lot of time, a lot of sweat equity to get that idea off the ground and hopefully into a studio or a network. So I suggest doing only things you're passionate about. I know that if I have compelling characters, a strong story engine, and a fascinating world of the show, I have a show. The pilot will come. If I have these 3 elements, I can make a show out of it. I can probably have 10 pilots out of that combination. So I'm pretty good there. Is this a place that I'm going to want to live for the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, we hope? Then yes, that's something that I'm willing to invest my time in. And that's how I measure it. Is this something I just wake up in the middle of the night and I'm still thinking about it?
Right. How much time do you put into thinking about who this is right for in terms of who might buy it or produce it or be interested in it? Or does that not factor in at all?
It always factors in, but for me at this point it's very second nature. So I'm automatically, that's one of the first things I'm thinking about. Where do I take this? Who's going to buy it? Who's looking for what? How do we sell this? How do we package it? Who's the hook? Or what's the hook? So I'm kind of constantly thinking about those things, and it is, and even when I have other people pitching me I'm thinking, where can they take this? Who's going to buy this? Oh, so you're taking this into CMT. What does CMT want? Like even if I'm not pitching it, what do they want? How can you package this? How can you take it in? What's going to be the right combination of things? If you said this, would that make them more likely to want to pick that up and sell it? Because I like to help other people make their dreams come true as well. So I'm kind of constantly thinking about it. It's maybe that's my that's my default.
Would you agree then, Aaron? It's sort of a combination of I really care about this, and I got to think about where it's going to go and who would be interested in it.
Yes, I would say so. I also think Kam I think has everything correct and also has a lot of experience in selling pilots. So there is awareness of the business side that is definitely there. I like to think a lot of times for me that first part of it, story that I'm really passionate about is extremely important to me because it is very, very difficult to get anything made. It's one thing to come up with an idea that you really, really like. But if you actually get what you wish for, which is it gets on the air and for TV, that could be another 8 to 10 years of your life. In some cases, if you're really, really fortunate, an SVU, what have you, will be on for 20, 21 years. You'll have kids, they'll grow up. You're going to live with that idea for a long time. So hopefully, and these are long hours, by the way, in the meantime. You're talking about long hours in the room, long hours on set. So ideally, it's something that you will be able to really, really kind of mine for good stuff. Something that you really, really believe in, hopefully.
So when it comes to pilots, and you guys can take your turn here, but what is it? I mean, obviously we just discussed you got to care about it, you got to be invested in it. But there's also this commercial side of what do they want? What do they want? What do you think? What are people looking for in pilots beyond the personal connection, the real fire to tell the story? What's the secret? What are people hunting for?
I'll let you take that, Cam. Well,
You know, there are a couple things. One, they're looking for passion. They're always going to be looking for something that you are passionate about, because if you can convey your passion in the pitch, they believe that you will stay up all these hours with this show, that you are dedicated to it. They're looking for something that is edgy, something that will break through the signal to noise ratio of right now there's more than 400 scripted shows in television, right? So there's a lot of television coming at people. So you need something that people are going to start talking about. Now, what do I mean by edgy? People automatically go to sex and violence. Well, sex and violence can be edgy, but it's worked very well for HBO. It's worked very well for Showtime. However, something like Transparent was very edgy, and I don't think it was because there was a lot of sex in it. I think it was because it was a topic that was at the right time. It came along. I also think something like SpongeBob SquarePants was very edgy. I mean, come on, he is a sponge with square pants. What were they thinking? I mean, oh my gosh. An edgy show, I think, for this past summer was Stranger Things. And its edginess was nostalgia. A lot of people who like horror say it wasn't horror enough. I don't think that's really what they were going for. They were looking to subvert what you thought those 80s movies were all about. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, I've got to put more sex, more violence in here to make it edgy. It's what is going to break through that signal to noise ratio and reach the audience and get people talking. So one, I think it has to be passion. You have to go in the room and you have to love this and want to make this and want to make them want to make this. And that's what they are looking for that. The other thing is, what makes this different than anything else that's on the air right now? Because there's just so much on the air right now.
There's nothing more scary to an executive than an uncommitted writer, right?
Yes.
You know, because, you know, I pick you up and I put my butt on the line for you.
Well, yeah, and also practically, they're looking to invest hundreds upon millions of dollars. I just finished with The Get Down. We might be, if not the most, then one of the most expensive TV shows ever made. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in that case.
It was 110 last I looked.
Well, it might be slightly more than that, but that's another conversation. But the point is that when someone's looking to invest in your idea, they're looking to make a major investment. We're talking about maybe $500 million in one TV show, you know, just from the first season or two of costs. So if I'm them and I want to invest hundreds of millions of dollars, why would I ever invest in someone who is less than passionate about what they want to do? If that's where it's starting from, is kind of lukewarm, I can't blame them. You know, I'm looking for somebody who's going to incite me and make me feel like this is a good investment.
Okay.
So what I would say, I would add to that is, when I'm thinking about what they want, there's something very different than what we call chasing the market. You can't chase the market, which is trying to please them. You can't please the executives or say, oh, well, this was a hit, they're going to want something exactly like that. That's not what that's about. It's like, is this something that would fit on ABC right now? Do I think they need this type of show on ABC right now? Will this fit their demographic? And if it's not, I'm not going to take it into ABC. Is this something that would fit better with Fox? Maybe it would, because Fox and ABC's demographics are very different. Or maybe it's CW, and CW and Fox's demographics are a little bit more similar. So that's what I'm saying when I'm thinking, where can I take this? Where can I sell it? I love this idea. Where can I take it? So that's very different than trying to please people. When you're trying to please people and not yourself, you're never going to please anyone.
Right. So in my thesis class this week, we were talking about patience and persistence. Does that resonate with you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
We were talking about this last night.
Last night we were talking about this. The word persistence in particular. You know, I teach at SC. We both have, and USC.
Yeah, all three of us.
Have. And one of the things that I tell my students is that, you know, of course, talent needs to be there and hard work, But maybe the most important of all the skills that you're going to need is persistence. And you probably heard this already in the classroom. But it never ends. Even once you get into the business and you're talking about selling an idea even, you know, the old saying is that all you need is one yes, even if you've gotten a million no's. You may very well get those a million no's. But that's where, again, if there's an idea that you really believe in, and in this climate where there are, you know, upwards of 400 different programs that are right now on the air, and more, by the way, that will be on the air in the next year or two, there are places to take almost any idea now. You want to do SpongeBob, you can do SpongeBob. You want to do Stranger Things, you can do that. You want to do Marco Polo, you can do that. But the key is that to remember that no matter what, even if you get a lot of no's, you know, all you need is the right yes. That's all. Breaking Bad has a notorious story of being turned down by everyone. But you get the right yes in the right place, and that turns into Breaking Bad.
Great. So, Aaron, you've made a career so far. I mean, I know you've done features and recently a documentary, and but you've been in a lot of rooms, you know, on staff, working on different shows, working your way up to various levels in the hierarchy. So what do you think the key is? I mean, we've talked a little bit about getting that first job already and what it takes to get representation and then, you know, maybe get that first gig. But what does it take as a writer to successfully find show after show, you know, to continue to be staffed, to continue to rise up the ranks from, you know, staff writer to story editor to producer? You know, so what is that process like for you? What do you think it takes to make that happen?
Well, one is persistence, which we just mentioned. Another is to make yourself indispensable, which you know, you may have talked about in class, but just what that means is that on any given staff, what you want to always do is be proactive in looking to see what that particular staff needs. And the staff is very different than the show you might see on the air. You may go on to a show that has one tone on screen, and then behind the scenes, the staff and the culture of the staff may be very different. And what you want to do, if you're fortunate enough to have a job or get a job, and in the vicinity of any TV staff, is immediately look to see what is needed. Where is there a void that could be filled, perhaps by something that you do well? When I was a staff writer on Friday Night Lights, the first thing I realized when I arrived is that very few of the writers knew about football. And the show is about football.
Oh, it makes me so sad.
But that's what I mean, is on one hand, I mean, the show itself is really not about the sport, so you don't need, you know, 10 football experts to write the show. You need people that can write character. But what I saw was a void definitely where we do need at least somebody who knows about football, at least one or two people.
And you know a little bit about football.
I like to think I know a little bit about
Aaron was an all-state cornerback in high school, so.
Very, very. That's a bet that he lost, so he has to say nice things about it later. But the idea, though, in that case was, you know, I found a void that I could at least try to fill in that first year by giving, you know, proactively making a list of different things that would be very, very helpful to writers, such as what do different positions on the field mean? What do those positions do? When a writer goes to write a script and they have no idea what that sport is, if they need a shorthand, just like a medical expert would do on a Grey's Anatomy or an ER, you know, you make things easier for your writers, is what you're always looking to do on any show that you're on. And if you can do that and do that well, and also, this is no small thing, not be an asshole. Not be an asshole. Meaning, don't be overbearing, don't be presumptuous, don't be the person who's trying too hard to fit in, to be cool. Just do your job and look for places to help. Then you can be, a lot of times, a person that people will want to work with again. At least some people will. So that's a basic overview.
What seems like understanding how to function in a group and a team and play your role and do your part, and, you know, which is fundamental to all areas of life beyond just the room, right? Be a good person, work hard.
Be a good person, but, you know, to different people, being a good person means different things.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in the Midwest, I grew up in Kansas City. Being a good person in Kansas City was being very polite, you know, and not overstepping your bounds. Well, in Hollywood, sometimes being polite means being too passive. You know, you may not be aggressive enough. You might be a nice person, doesn't mean people are going to want to work with you again. You still have to know where to contribute, where to step on the gas, and to do it in a respectful way. What you want to do is to be a person who is good at what they do and is productive and makes the process easier at all times. If you can make the process easier for everybody involved and make sure that you're doing your part to contribute to a quality product, you know, 9 times out of 10, you have a pretty good start.
Great. So you have a position now that you're going to be in soon, I would guess, to have some water. As a, as with SWAT and presumably other projects down the road, to be looking for writers to work with. And let's just assume that obviously you'll staff with people who have a lot of experience, but maybe you're looking for one or two new people, I should say. What are you looking in from a baby writer or a writer who's just broken when they come into the room to talk to you about writing on your show?
It's a good question. I mean, bottom line is you want people it's the same as selling a pilot. You want people that are going to be passionate about what they do, going to be excited about the opportunity. And you also want people that have done their homework. It's as everyone knows, it's a very competitive industry. So, what I would always do as a staff writer, and I have that example to kind of go off of. That's what I would look for. I think is you want writers who, when they come in, are kind of the anti-Trump in a way. They are prepared. They know. They know.
Bravo.
No offense to any Trump supporters, but maybe a little bit.
Do you really care?
Maybe a little bit. But you want people who have done their homework so that when they come in for any interview, any meeting, any interaction, they know about the show. They know what the strengths of the show are, even the weaknesses. Even though there's a way to present that in a way that's not disrespectful. Mm-hmm. They also know, the writers on staff or anyone who's been hired before, the director. You want to make sure you've done your homework thoroughly so that when you come in, what you want to be is wowed. You want to feel like that is a person who is a self-starter, who I know will be in a room or on a set, and I won't have to micromanage them. They'll make the process easier. That's always the key, is you want someone who's going to come in who is prepared on their own and done the necessary homework on their own. By the way, for a job that they're not even guaranteed to get. But they've done the necessary homework and basically made a full-time job out of preparing to get a full-time job.
And that's the key to pitching features, pitching pilots. Do you ever go into a room where you don't know anyone? You don't know who they are? Do you don't know what they?
No.
Yeah.
No. But I would say, just to jump on, because he said it from one perspective, but a staff writer's job, every writer's job on a staff, is to make your showrunner's job easier. Mm-hmm. If it is doing something so your showrunner can go home on the weekend and have dinner with his or her family, and it's, you write a scene that isn't in your show, it's in somebody else's show, and it just makes your showrunner's job easier and you get no credit for it, that's what you're, it's just contributing in some way. Right. It's not looking to say that's not my job, this is my job. It's like, no, it's all of your job. That it's just making your showrunner's job easier, and that's, I think, one of the things where baby writers sometimes like, that's not my job, this is my job. I'm doing my job. What
I also find, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, what I've noticed for baby writers within the last year or two is that you can also have baby writers who come in who go the opposite way, where kind of the assumption is, I want to be a showrunner like next year, because that's what's happening. There's 400 shows out there, and I had a friend of mine who just got out of whatever college, and now he has his own show in the air. And so there is a new wave of baby writers I've noticed that have come up who feel as though they're entitled right away to a big office and treating the assistants like shit, and feeling as though they should be in charge tomorrow. And I think that can be a difficult road to tread as well. You want to definitely come in with the idea that you're going to make everybody's job easier. You also, though, and I still go back to it, don't be an asshole. Just don't be too presumptuous. Don't feel as though blind ambition is always the answer. Ambition is good, but you want to make sure that you are expressing that in a way that is still respectful of the process. Okay. I compare TV writing, which is different than feature writing, to the military to a certain extent, because there's definitely a ranking system on many shows. So that idea of the hierarchy of paying your dues and having put in enough work to earn the title of being an upper level writer, on some shows is still very important. So you just want to make sure that you recognize, first of all, what kind of show you're going into, if that is important. And then second of all, I think no matter what, humility goes a long way. It can be a good thing.
So real quick, is there any difference writing, setting up shows or writing for the streaming venues than there is for, I mean, I know network and cable have their differences, and I just wonder, since you've worked on and you've probably talked to some folks in that, what's the vibe at Amazon and Netflix, and what's that like?
Well, maybe we should take it in two parts. I'll talk about being on staff on one of the shows.
Okay.
And Kam is taking out projects, of course, on the development side. Being on staff, the biggest difference, you know, when you're on a major network, it's like a freight train that does not stop. Meaning that the great thing about it is unlike film school or, you know, making your own films, you don't have to wait so long. You write something and 6 weeks later, you know, it's ready to go and pretty much, you know, on the air. And that's 16, 20, 22 episodes a year. So you're constantly getting practice in the things that you love. The drawback to it is that you don't have much time. There's not much time to deliberate. So you better be on your job in the room, writing, and then also on set. So when you're on a major network, always the dream is that, oh, just would love to have a month, you know, to really write something and really contemplate it and think about the depths of the character and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And then you get to streaming where there is more time and you realize it's not that simple. It's not that simple. You do have more time, but at the same time, the pressures are a little bit different. A lot of times you may be dealing with different personalities, different types of egos, a different type of setup, and oftentimes a different ambition. If you're writing on Game of Thrones and you're talking about telling a story on 3 different continents, you know, there are different considerations to be made than if you're simply shooting in Chicago, you know. So all of that said, I think the biggest difference is the time management. I also think that overall content-wise, there are obvious differences. There is as much as I think younger audiences tend to kind of belittle, say, like a CBS and the procedurals that appeal to an older audience, there's a particular skill that is required to write that type of rhythm, you know, that type of show that is very different than writing, let's say, Narcos on Netflix. And the fact is that you can definitely you can get edgier, if you will, with sex and violence on streaming for sure. You have a wider span of things that you can cover. You can go kids, you can go really edgy, you can go somewhere in the middle. And on the networks, there's kind of there is a definite brand, if you will, for each network that is very different from streaming. Amazon and Netflix are kind of like Costco in a way. There's something for everybody. So on that same network, you know, you could watch The Get Down, you could watch Luke Cage, you could watch Marvel stuff, you could watch Stranger Things. There is no one audience for Netflix or for Amazon. CBS has a definite brand. There's a type of show you know is perfect for that. There's a type of show you know is perfect for ABC, NBC, and Fox. And so overall, that's something as a writer on staff that you have to be aware of, because you want to know going in, okay, as a young writer, I'm going to CBS. I might have in my mind, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to revolutionize this show. I'm going to turn into the Breaking Bad, because that's what I like. It's like, that's not really right necessarily for CBS. But if you want to take that to another network, AMC or wherever, it might be perfect.
Okay.
I think you've brought up some on the seller side of it. You brought up some really good points that CBS has a definite brand, it has a definite demographic, and there are some things that you have to take into consideration. The one thing is that you know, as a seller, what they're looking for. When you're going into Netflix, it could be kind of, you're not really sure. And maybe you will sell something, maybe you won't. And you think, oh, I thought that was going to be perfect there. And for some reason it's not. It's a little bit more algorithmic because they are looking at numbers and it's like a black box. So you're not getting any kind of feedback. The creators are not getting any feedback. So you're not getting any numbers, whereas with CBS and FX and even HBO, you have some numbers and you know what's doing well for them, you know what they need, you know what they're programming, you have this idea. So, you know, I think they're gonna need something like this, and I think this show would be perfect for them, and I think I can convince them of that. That is less so for, say, Amazon. And I mean, look, they spent a whole lot of money on Woody Allen, And I don't know that that's really going to pay off for them, but algorithmically, it should have, because a lot of people search for Woody Allen on Amazon, and that's one of the things they said. A lot of people search for Woody Allen. They buy a lot of Woody Allen movies. They watch a lot of Woody Allen movies. Let's spend a lot of money on Woody Allen, and I don't know that necessarily the money they put into him, which is probably not that much to Jeff Bezos, but anyway,
Right.
yeah, he's like, so what, you know? But I don't know that that's necessarily going to pay off for
Right.
him.
Right.
So.
Okay. So last spring, and we had WGA President Howard Rodman here. This is our first Courier 12 in the fall. We had done it in the spring before, and that was right on the heels of the Oscars and the Oscars So White campaign. And we talked a little
So
bit.
what? No, just kidding. Go ahead.
He gave us a pretty grim bunch of numbers about the state of things in Hollywood regarding, women, diversity. And I'm wondering what you guys are seeing out in the field. Is it better? Is it changing? And then on a second level, what will it take to change, to improve things?
I'll gladly take this one.
Sure.
I mean, I'm a bit of a history nut when it comes to Hollywood and other things as well. So what I always look at is, what has been the progression over the history of time in the business, including TV. When I look at the history of TV, across the board, the numbers have always been abysmal. It's not as though they've suddenly taken a dip in the last few years. There was a time where it was pretty much non-existent, in TV, that is. And then there was a time where, talking about in the 80s with The Cosby Show and A Different World and a few other shows, or Margaret Cho had her own show, talk about abysmal numbers. Asians on TV, that's a whole different thing. It's like, they're still pretty much non-existent. But the fact is that number that I'm sure Rodman mentioned has stayed pretty consistent for a pretty long time. We're talking about 30 years, where I think the working membership of the WGA West, writers of color made up 10 to 11%. Working writers of color. Now that's all working writers of color. I'm not talking about even just
TV.
black writers. I'm talking about just, period, across the board, like 10%. And certainly, the other argument would be is that does everything have to reflect kind of the demographics of the United States? No, they don't, but I do think from a business perspective, it makes sense if your viewers are made up of, say, 40, almost 50% now, people of color in the country, then you probably want to at least pay attention to them a little bit, like just a little bit. That makes sense. So what I think is what has taken hold in the last few years is that you've had a few successes on the feature side, and TV tends to sometimes follow features, where people are kind of rediscovering that there is another audience out there. And then also when you have upwards of 400 different series on TV, well, in order to cut through the noise and differentiate yourself, when you're looking for fresh perspectives on things, that is one of the ways that sometimes you can break through the noise and look for, fresh, newer voices. So to answer your question, I think it's always been abysmal. I still think it's abysmal. I think right now there are opportunities that are there that have never been there before because of recent hits. But I also grew up in the 90s where in the feature world that was possible. You had a bunch of so-called kind of urban dramas, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, and you had all these articles come out saying, oh, Hollywood's changing, things are shifting. And it's like, no, it was actually just kind of a wave. By 1998, things were right back where they were. So I take a skeptical eye, or at least a cautious eye, where I look at right now, I think there are great opportunities for the Issa Raes of the world, for the Ryan Cooglers of the world, for Ava DuVernays of the world, where you're finding new voices that come out. Hopefully with the proliferation of opportunities across the board, you'll see that continue. But keep in mind that the status quo and where the business always kind of wants to reset is where it was before, and where it's been for the last 80 years.
Okay. Okay.
I would agree with my esteemed colleague here that it will want to reset, and changing where the awards are it doesn't actually change what is made. And I would rather see more product, more people working, more voices, more views, more perspectives than simply putting more people giving out awards, the same people, getting awards. Like, I would rather have more voices out there getting a chance to get something made. That would be lovely. One of the reasons, and to hop back to what Aaron was saying, he was saying that there's a hierarchy in television, and that working your way up through the ranks, that is what you should do, and to earn your way up. For me, that particular road, as for my particular circumstance, I jumped from a lower level to an upper level very quickly. But also it was easier because of my background. It is for people like me, and maybe you're out there and you're also within a minority, you're a minority, that you don't fit into a box very easily. I don't fit into the boxes very easily, and people who make the boxes like the boxes. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't fit into the box and want to stay in the box, it's hard to make your way up the ladder. For me, when I could get in a room and start talking about ideas and things I'm passionate about, and the show and the story and the characters, that's when we started talking about stuff that I could write, as opposed to talking about this. And that's why the path for me was always development. That's when my career actually started to make sense for people, as opposed to trying to figure out, well, where am I going to put you in a room if you're, what are you exactly? Wow. Do you feel more this or this or this? I don't understand. So still there is this pervasive idea that because of what you are, that is what you write. And I get excited about ideas. I get excited about stories. I get excited. I'm curious about the world. So I don't necessarily write the box, and I don't stay in the box. So maybe you're a person who doesn't stay in the box. Well, I would like to say for you, there's room outside of the box, and you don't have to stay in the box. You find a way. There is maybe a ladder if that works for you, and it can work for you, but hopefully there's room for all of us.
Right. That's great, Kam. Thank you. Aaron, have you ever felt boxed?
Sorry. I burn the box.
Burn that box down.
I mean, my career has been full of shows that are good stories. That's the thing. And that's what I'm always looking for. I wrote on CSI New York as a cop show. I could be Irish and from the depths of Ohio and write that. You know what I mean? But I happen to be a black dude from KCK and I wrote that. I look at it as an advantage because when I look across, and straight up, just as a minority in America, I feel like I have a better shot at writing your voice than you do of me. So exactly. Whenever I get up and I interact, I'm like, I hear your voice every day. I got that down. I can do that. You try writing me, no shot. Not authentically. You know what I mean? No, and I know you're a very talented writer, but I'm just saying in general, I look at it as a superpower in a way. Like when I walk in the rooms, I know we call it code switching on certain shows, where if I need to, I can talk your language. If I need to write for Gary Sinise and write the way he speaks, I can do that. There's a famous quote from David Milch in the late 90s where he made this controversial comment about minority writers not being able to write mainstream product. That was his concern. But he was he was speaking for, I think, a lot of people when he was saying it. And the thing is, I think it's actually the exact reverse. I think if there's anyone that definitely has studied on the ways of America and the different voices and how to mimic those voices and kind of make it your own, it probably is the minority. Think about the guy who's the one guy in your school, in your class, in your neighborhood. He's the guy that knows all, everything that you have to say and kind of how you say it. The trick is getting him in the room where he can prove that. That's always been the hurdle. And now more and more, when you find people like Kam who are selling shows, and you find people again like Ava DuVernay, Chael Coker, who's doing this thing on Luke Cage, these are people now who are in power and can hire writers themselves. Well, that superpower now works with some authority because you can recognize that. You go, okay, I see you. Where others don't, I recognize that superpower. And I can mix it in a way where I can put together a team that will completely, hopefully bring different voices to the forefront. That's my answer for the box. I don't believe in it. I don't believe
in it either.
I believe it exists. I also believe you can burn it down. That's the idea.
So are you hopeful then that we'll be getting more deciders, like the people you're talking about on the shows you're talking about that can include more voices, or do you feel like the reset is always a fear, and that it could always sweep through and wipe all of that out?
The hope is that we would get more deciders who see the world as it actually exists.
Yeah.
My hope is that we see that, like for me, I am the melting pot. I represent America. I am America.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, and you're seeing it a little bit more even in commercials. I mean, we'll have people, mixed families on television selling you Acuras and Tide, and that's okay. So if the commercials could do it, maybe, just maybe, our families on TV can do it, and maybe, just maybe, the people behind the scenes could tell those stories. But hopefully the deciders who are in place will say, okay, now I kind of get you. You don't have to feel more like this or like that. You can feel like you, and okay, that's a valid voice within the room. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think business-wise, I think we're at a place where, again, because there's more content on the air, more than ever, and people are looking to kind of make their mark, kind of form their own brand, I think there are opportunities, again, that weren't there before. I also think that what you're seeing right now, you're seeing generations switching. There was a time where, and I love baby boomers, my parents are baby boomers, but the fact is, as generations start to switch out, I think generations now come to expect a little bit more of a variety, if you will.
Okay.
So you have different regimes now at each of the major networks even. President of ABC Entertainment, black woman.
Yes.
That's never happened before. So there's always that awareness that I think everyone should have, that there is that reset that is possible. At the same time, I think because there are so many people that are aware of so-called reset, I have more belief than ever that we're headed in the right direction.
Great. So we have just a minute or two left before we'll take some questions. I wanted to change subjects a little bit to something I'm really interested in. So you're both very successful screenwriters, television writers, and you also have other interests, which I think is really fascinating. As I mentioned before, Kam has written a new book on television writing. She's also a novelist. Aaron, you directed a documentary recently for ESPN, 30 for 30, the Trojan War documentary about the rise and the fall of the USC football empire. And I know you have other creative interests in terms of directing. So do you feel that's an important thing in your lives now? These alternative modes of expression that aren't just, fade in, interior, writing scenes. You're doing different things, and how does that play into your overall creative life and your energy and your projects? I'm just curious how that feels. So Kam, what do you think?
I've been incredibly blessed because when Hero came out the Hero Succeeds came out in January, it was well received, and I hit emails like from around the world of people saying, "Oh my, yeah, this book has been what I've been looking for." It's put me in touch with such a variety of people that I would never be in touch with, and a lot. I've had like essentially two tracks in my career. My my writing and then helping people, that side. So the book is a very tangible way for me to help a lot more people than just the immediate people around me. So it is essential to me to have these other things that I'm doing, and challenging myself to do something different, to put, whether it's a novel, putting 100,000 words together, or writing a nonfiction book or whatever. That's kind of essential to me to see, can I do this? Is this possible? So it's something that's been, it has been a blessing to me.
It keeps you sharp and fresh and looking for new opportunities and plugged in.
And bringing me new things, new people, putting me in contact with new people, and I love that.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, I think there is, first of all, I mean, Kam's extraordinary with all of her varied interests and successes, so that's its own thing unto itself. The way I look at it is that, as a writer, as an artist, there's so long where writing is kind of that thing that you do on the side while you're working at the bookstore or Foot Locker, wherever it is. And it's kind of a thing you enjoy. You go off to your little hole and you write your stories and hopefully share it with the world. When it actually becomes your profession, where that is a thing now that you do every day, there is kind of a switch where all of a sudden, that hobby time that you had no longer is filled up most likely with writing, because that's what you're doing. So it is a healthy, just from a psychological standpoint, I think, to have something else, whatever that is. For some people, it's taking up a hobby, playing guitar. For some people, it's becoming a fisherman. For some people, it's playing in a hockey league, a rec hockey league. It's just the way the brain works, where you sometimes need a break from whatever it is you focus on so intensely for most of the day, just to let your mind go and do something else, even if it's something that seemingly is really trivial.
Fantasy football.
Fantasy football, for instance, if one considers that trivial.
I'm not saying it's trivial at all.
I had the better team. I really did. I had the better team. We got lucky at the
We've
end.
been talking fantasy football for hours here.
I'm
I'm sorry. No, finish your thought.
I love mentioning the league that I won.
But speaking of this league, and we're going to take questions now, so if you have questions, start migrating over to the side. But the league is it's called Pigskin. It's not a very inventive name, but Aaron mentioned Narcos. Doug Myro, who co-created Narcos, is in the league with a number of other industry people. We all graduated together, knew each other tangentially, and it keeps us together. I tried to quit once, and Aaron called me and said, "You're not quitting."
I said, "If you go, we go."
So somebody mentioned in the previous panel about the bond of your group, your cohort, your fellow writers, and your friends. And I think if anything, having the three of us on stage today is a testament to that. And I'm grateful you'd be here. And I think we've got a line of questions, so we'll just go ahead and see what people want to ask. Who's first? I think we're line. Well, I have one. Okay, looks like. Okay, good.
Hello. This is so cool, by the way. But I just wanted to ask, on the idea of boxes, what shows from the past or currently do you think do a really good job at burning down or stepping out of those boxes? I'm basically just asking for a watch list where I could just see the burning or the stepping out of in action.
Shondaland.
Yeah. Shondaland is a burning box factory.
Yes, everything Shondaland, because Shonda she casts colorblind, she hires colorblind, right? I don't know if you guys remember, but she was the first speaker at First Pitch. She helped kick off First Pitch. So she's really, really fantastic. She's really supportive of all voices, I think. What other, obviously transparent.
Yes, absolutely. Transparent Transparent being a really good example right now within the last year or two. You know, that is a voice that I don't know if we've ever heard from before on a TV show. Transgender, you know, and it's a strong community with a lot to say. So you have, I mean, you have Shondaland, you have shows, well, a show like Transparent. You also have, you know, and again, this is more like examples of content than how you feel about whether you're a fan of the show. But fresh off the boat for what it's trying to do, and Dr. Ken on ABC.
Kenya Barris.
Kenya Barris with Blackish, and Kenya and I go back to Soul Food. You know, I remember he was trying to get that show made then, and it wasn't right, and obviously now it is. But there are many examples now. I mean, even shows like Atlanta, you know, on
Atlanta.
FX. You know, Issa Rae has her show that I think premieres tomorrow, Insecure. I'm also trying to look, and that's why I bring up like a fresh off the boat and Dr. Ken, because oftentimes in Hollywood, when the discussion goes to diversity, it kind of becomes a black-white conversation, which I appreciate on many levels, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but you know, let's not forget transgender, you know, definitely strong female voices, definitely Asian voices, which are like this big, you know, right now. Not even to mention Indian voices, you know, Hispanic.
Master of None.
Master of None.
Aziz,
I mean, there are quite a few now.
In our class this quarter, we watched Tangerine, and you know, the filmmakers aren't necessarily out of the box, but they created some really box-burning characters in that film, or found them really, you know, found those characters and brought them into the movie. So that's not shows, but
I mean, honestly, the real answer would be is what you bring. You know, that'll be the thing that you want to see. It's like, because everyone's voice is different. Even in Atlanta and Blackish, they're both done by young black men, very different shows, very different personalities, different parts of the United States. That's diversity within a so-called diverse group on its own right. So what you bring to it will be its own thing into itself. That's the hope.
I will say, somebody like, and I respect, this is a white showrunner who was burning boxes long ago. Nancy Miller, no relation, but I love her. And she has given me such amazing advice during the years. She was burning boxes. She was hiring colorblind. She was hiring women and making sure that there were many different voices within the room. And this was like I mean, you know, I say way back. She's like, thank you very much for saying that. But you know, she was a showrunner and very feisty and said, you know, these are voices that need to be heard.
Right.
What were some of her shows?
Saving Grace, Any Day Now. Gosh, yes. Why are they all jumping out of my head right now? Saving Grace and Any Day Now are right in my, and there was another one.
It's
right
easy to find on this IMDb
Yeah.
website.
Yes.
You look her up. Any Day Now in particular is really like way ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time. Yeah, so good.
We should take another question.
Hi, I was at the Courier in the springtime, and I had asked Howard I had asked him a question about diversity, and I got a great answer, but from a president's perspective. So I wanted to ask a similar question from a writer's perspective. Being someone of color and being interested in writing and wanting to get a career in that, what are one of the things that you can look back at and think, oh, I shouldn't have worried so much about that a lot of young writers of color worry a lot about? Like, for example, my roommate, who is black, he watched Atlanta and he was like, how did they pitch that and get that show's too black, right? It seemed too black. And then I told him that at the end of the day, it was what he went through, the writer, things he saw. But that kind of worry about, is this too much of this? Those are the kind of things that we think about, and I want to know what are some things that you might have thought about that you thought maybe I shouldn't have worried so much about that.
Can I answer that?
Please go ahead.
As far as, I don't know that I've ever worried about this, but as addressing something about like that's too black or how did they pitch that, I wasn't in the room, and I don't know Donald Glover, but I can tell you, Donald, being from the community of doing Childish Gambino and knowing that world so well. Remember when I said a strong story engine, a compelling characters, and a fascinating world? If you know that, and you could go in and talk to those executives and tell them that you are an expert, that you know this world, they will want to go to that world with you. It doesn't matter what the world is. We want to go into a new world that we haven't seen before, whether it's Narcos or it's Atlanta. And if you can make them laugh, which Donald can, in the room, they'll go with you on that journey. It doesn't matter who you are or what. It's the authenticity. So I would say I wouldn't worry about it being too black. Granted, there are going to be a lot of no's. When I hear no, I actually hear next. So where are we going to take it next? Yeah, we got to know where. Okay, great, fine. Next. Where are we going next? What's going to happen for this project next? So that's that. I don't know that I've ever really worried about it, but that's what I would say to that particular. How did they sell it? And I'm always thinking, how did they sell it? That's how they sold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could piggyback
Yeah.
on that, you know, I mean, first of all, I mean, I hope all of you are not too worried that too much of who you are is going to be
Yeah, please
rejected. You know, hopefully what you're focusing on is, you know, how can I make sure my stories are as good as possible? You know, I think in the case of In Atlanta, what's great about it is that, yeah, everyone's talking about, you know, the lemon pepper chicken and, you know, the different specific cultural references, you know, that make it quote unquote black. And I don't even know what too black means, by the way, but bottom line is at the end of the day, what you also have is a really great story. You have an American dream. You have a guy, a kid who basically has nothing, who's aspiring to be something great, aspiring to be the manager of Paperboy, right? Now you take that and you make that in Philadelphia with an Italian dude who's a boxer, it's the same basic story. It's just the elements are different. And I think if you can just concentrate on the craft, make sure your stories are as tight as possible, also make sure that you can communicate that effectively, you'd be surprised when people are looking for so-called fresh takes, how something that you might have been concerned with was too much, if you have the principles in place, actually turns out to be a really fresh take on the American dream. That's the way I see it, is make sure you've done your homework, make sure you know what your craft is and how to do it, and the rest will take care of itself.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. The New York Times recently just published an article called "Who Gets to Write What?" and it's really like an open question about like qualifications for a writer. And in one specific example in the article, it's about a female Asian writer that comes under fire in like a workshop for writing a lynching scene, and how people in the workshop tell her that she's not qualified to write it, like she wouldn't know. And I just was wondering if you had any thoughts on that, like being qualified to write something.
I have a few questions on that. Lynching scene in what regard, in what context?
It's the lynching of a black man, I know that. That's as far as I think it goes into. In the
Modern
article.
day or back in like 1880?
I wouldn't know. I think it just brings it up.
These are all key questions. They
Gotcha.
very much determine the answer to this particular question.
Gotcha.
Okay. If it were someone who's writing about a lynching that happened on Wabash Street a week ago, you know, and this is someone who, you know, is simply writing that to make a splash, you know, to draw attention, that could be problematic. I don't know if anyone's here I don't know if there's anyone that can determine what you can and cannot write. You write what you want to write. But you also have to understand that in an arena where you want to share your work with the public, there are going to be opinions. You know, and in particular in TV and film, you have what you call an audience that you hope to appeal to. If you're writing it for your 4 friends, you know, then that's one thing. If you're writing it for hopefully what will be millions of people, what you also have to understand is that your work will be evaluated in the so-called court of public opinion. And depending on what kind of judgment you want, the place you come from, your sincerity, and the homework that you've done in order to tell that story may have a lot to do with how you're received. So I don't know that there's necessarily a clear-cut who can write what, but if you're setting out to write something, especially something that's typically out of your cultural purview, then I really, really hope you've done your homework extensively so that you know exactly what the you're talking about.
Thank
So
you.
that's my answer.
It's funny, we had this conversation before the panel started. Who's next?
Hello. I had a question, obviously. So, has there been a specific turning point or very life-affirming event professionally where you felt like you stopped being an amateur and really felt like you deserved the position you were in? And once you moved on to the next level, how did you prepare mentally for it? Was that too convoluted of a question?
I don't know that
Did you feel like there was a transition point when you went from aspiring to professional?
I mean, I suppose technically, if I'm going technically, I felt as though I was a professional when I actually received a paycheck for writing.
That it was.
My mind thinks like that. It was technically that is a professional writer. Whether or not I will remain a professional writer is something else, and that is something that lingers for years because there's always a concern. A show can get canceled just like that. You can be let go at any time. And there's also kind of this anxiety, fear that can be very prevalent in the business if you don't watch it. What I had to decide on early on, to kind of answer your question, is whether or not I would allow myself to be ruled by that anxiety, that fear. And the way I felt, and the way I still feel, is that it's something that I love to do no matter what. I'm going to do it no matter what. I always feel as though things tend to happen for a reason, and I also tend to feel as though if you do the right things, you work hard, you put yourself in the right position, things will work out. So that whole idea of kind of the transition between amateur and professional, I think all of us kind of exist in kind of a plane that's a mix of it all. Hopefully you never lose enthusiasm you have as a so-called amateur, but also you have the opportunities that allow you to be a professional. And you're constantly looking to make sure that you're giving yourself those opportunities.
I guess that the reason I faltered there a little bit is that, I never had that transition. I never, because giving the power away to somebody else to determine whether or not I was actually a writer or not, never sat very well with me. Remember, I don't fit in those boxes. So that's why I just never felt like I had that. I always decided that I'm going to do this. I'm a writer. I write, and whether I get paid for it or not, that's how I'm going to consider myself. So, hopefully, if you're writing right now, you will consider yourself a writer, and you'll keep doing it because you love it. And whether somebody pays you or not, ever you will consider yourself a writer who has a voice and wants to be heard.
Just to add on, what are the most, from a practical aspect, what would be the best way to get your foot in the door, staff writing wise?
These days, staff writing wise is, first of all, make sure that you have material that is ready to go. Make sure, I would focus the vast majority of my time on making sure that I am as good as I can possibly be as a writer on the page, and also attitude-wise that I'm ready to step in and contribute. Once you do that, I mean, you're already in a position that most people would kill for. You're at a good film school, you have professors all around you, you have peers who will be successful or who may already be successful. Those opportunities and those doors will be there. It's a matter of will you be ready to walk through them when they present themselves. So I always, I would say focus on the craft. Make sure that you are learning and executing at the highest level you possibly can. And you'll recognize certain opportunities when they're there. I would be reluctant to say no to any meeting that you might be able to get, because you never know.
Meeting.
Always take meetings. And make sure that your work and yourself are prepared to take advantage of that meeting if it turns into anything.
Always
Great.
take the meeting.
Yeah, sorry. Well, that's all the time we have. I'm really grateful that you all would come, and I think that was a great conversation. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for asking great questions.